What happens when one calm whisper destroys a president's roar? It began with a town hall in Phoenix, a stage lit by cameras, lights, and the weight of political expectation. The audience came prepared to hear about immigration, policy, and the usual clash of ideologies. Instead, they got something different, something human. Barack Obama leaned forward in his chair, calm as ever, and spoke not about numbers or walls, but about values. Marriage is built on respect, trust, and honesty. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The words slipped into the room like a stone dropped into still water, quiet, but powerful enough to send ripples across the nation. The crowd gasped. Not because the line was loud, but because it was sharp, cutting straight through the fog of politics into something every person could understand. Respect. Trust. Honesty. 3 words that belonged not only to politics, but to marriage, family, and everyday life. For a moment, the town hall wasn't about policy. It was about people. And in the silence after Obama's remark, the audience filled in the blanks with their own thoughts, their own experiences. They didn't just hear a former president, they heard a teacher reminding them of a lesson they already knew but had forgotten. That was the spark. A calm voice, a simple truth, and a reminder that sometimes the most powerful lines in history aren't shouted, they are whispered. If Obama's words were a stone dropped into still water, Trump's reaction was the storm that followed. The calm line about respect, trust, and honesty should have passed as just another moment in a political debate, but Trump made sure it didn't. His face flushed red, his voice cracked, and anger spilled out before he could stop it. Disgusting. Out of line. Nobody talks about my family. The words weren't measured, they were defensive. Instead of closing the conversation, he poured oxygen onto the flames. Clips of the exchange flooded the internet within minutes. Side-by-side edits showed Obama coolly delivering his line, contrasted with Trump shouting, jaw clenched, eyes flashing with fury. The contrast was brutal. One man looked composed, the other exposed. And in politics, anger rarely looks like strength. To some supporters, Trump's rage was loyalty, a husband defending his wife. But to millions of others, it looked like weakness, thin-skinned, insecure, and defensive. The more Trump tried to bury the moment, the more it grew. Each retort, each complaint became another headline, another meme, another viral post. His fury didn't silence the line, it amplified it. In the end, the lesson was clear. In politics, as in life, anger doesn't protect you. It betrays you. The moment Trump lost his temper, the internet won. Within hours, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube were overflowing with clips, edits, and memes that turned a serious debate into pure entertainment. One viral edit juxtaposed Obama's calm delivery, marriage is built on respect, trust, and honesty, with Trump's furious reply, disgusting. Out of line. The contrast was so sharp it felt scripted, like a comedy skit rather than a town hall. College students in Austin filmed themselves reacting to the clip, pausing every time Trump's voice cracked and bursting into laughter. By midnight, the hashtag #TriggeredTrump was trending. TikTok creators stitched the moment into parody videos, adding dramatic music, laugh tracks, or captions like, different worlds. Same stage. Late-night comedians piled on. Jimmy Fallon joked about prenups thicker than the Bible, and Stephen Colbert held up a fake marriage manual titled Respect, Trust, Honesty. 3 words you'll never hear in the White House. The punchlines weren't just funny, they reinforced the contrast everyone saw, Obama calm, Trump unraveling. Memes traveled faster than news clips, reaching people who didn't usually follow politics. In group chats, Facebook mom pages, even knitting circles in Minnesota, the moment became an inside joke. It wasn't just politics anymore, it was pop culture. The internet had done what it always does, taken a spark and fanned it into a wildfire. And once a moment becomes a meme, no politician can control it. If the outside world was laughing, inside the White House was anything but. The Phoenix town hall followed Trump back to Washington like a storm cloud. On the flight home, reporters noted that he spent most of the trip pacing in his private cabin, replaying the clip on his iPad, muttering pathetic over and over like a broken record. By the next morning, the tension had spread across the West Wing. Staffers who usually joked in the hallways kept their heads down. Everyone knew the president's mood was volcanic, and one wrong step could set him off. A senior aide whispered to another, "We're in for a long week." Trump stormed into the Roosevelt Room with a folder full of newspaper clippings. Slamming them on the table, he barked, Look at this. Every paper, every channel, it's all Obama, Obama, Obama. They're laughing at me. They're laughing at Melania. Fix it. I don't care how, just fix it. But there was no fixing it. Every option his advisors suggested only made him angrier. Highlight policy. Nobody cares about policy. Showcase Melania's immigrant story? So we make her the story? Worse. He rejected every idea, consumed by a slight he couldn't let go of. Meanwhile, Melania stayed silent. She skipped events, avoided cameras, and even at dinner told him plainly, "I don't want to get involved." To Trump, her silence felt like betrayal. To the staff, it was gasoline on an already raging fire. Leaks from inside painted a picture of dysfunction. Advisors admitted every morning meeting began with the clip playing yet again. One staffer confessed, "He's obsessed. He can't move on." Outside, America was laughing. Inside, the White House was suffocating under paranoia, silence, and a president who couldn't stop replaying his humiliation. In politics, words are weapons. But sometimes, silence is deadlier. After Obama's remark, the cameras turned to Melania, waiting for a reaction. She smiled faintly, then looked down. No rebuttal. No defense. Just silence. To the audience, it was subtle. To Trump, it was devastating. Behind closed doors, aides urged her to issue a statement, maybe even an interview, to push back against Obama's words. But Melania refused. "It will only make it bigger," she reportedly said. And she was right. Speaking out would have added fuel to the fire. Remaining silent allowed the moment to hang in the air, uncontested, unanswered, undeniable. Her quietness wasn't weakness. It was power. By not responding, Melania left the stage entirely to Obama and Trump, and the contrast between the two men grew sharper. One calm, measured, unbothered. The other angry, loud, defensive. To some Americans, her silence was dignity. To others, indifference. But to Trump, it was humiliation. He expected loyalty in the form of words, public defense, fiery rebuttals. Instead, he got distance. And the more Melania stayed quiet, the more isolated he felt. The irony. The very silence Trump hated became the loudest voice in the story. While he shouted himself hoarse, Melania's refusal to play along made her look poised, and even sympathetic. In the battle of noise and quiet, silence won. While the White House seethed with silence and fury, the rest of America buzzed. The Phoenix moment didn't stay on television screens, it spilled into everyday life, into the places where real debates happen. Diners, barbershops, family living rooms. At a diner in Ohio, a waitress poured coffee while two truck drivers argued over the clip. One laughed, Obama didn't even raise his voice, and Trump still lost it. The other shook his head. That wasn't fair, bringing up his marriage. Everyone had an opinion. Nobody stayed neutral. In a barbershop in Atlanta, the TV replayed the exchange on loop. The barbers clapped, chuckling every time Trump's voice cracked. Customers jumped in with jokes. Man, he looked like he wanted to throw the mic. The room erupted in laughter, and soon the Phoenix town hall felt less like politics and more like a sports highlight. Even in family homes, the moment became a conversation starter. At a kitchen table in Michigan, a mother told her teenage daughter, "See? That's what leadership looks like. Calm, not chaos." Meanwhile, in a living room in Texas, a father defended Trump, insisting, any man would have done the same if someone came for his wife. The debate wasn't just about Obama or Trump, it was about values, about how people thought a leader should behave under pressure. For some, Obama's words were wisdom. For others, Trump's outrage was loyalty. But one truth was undeniable. The Phoenix moment had slipped out of Washington and into the bloodstream of America. It was no longer just a headline. It was a conversation in every corner of the country. If the internet gave the Phoenix moment wings, the media gave it fuel. Every network, from CNN to Fox News, couldn't resist replaying the clip. It was short, sharp, irresistible, the kind of soundbite producers dream of. On CNN, the clip aired nearly 20 times in a single day. Pundits dissected Obama's body language, calm tone, and choice of words. On Fox News, hosts rushed to defend Trump, calling Obama's remark a low blow, but even there the replay looped endlessly, ensuring millions saw the contrast again and again. Cable news thrives on repetition. Each time the clip aired, Obama looked stronger, Trump looked weaker, and the audience was reminded of the same lesson: composure beats chaos. By the third day, headlines no longer asked who won the town hall. They declared it outright: Obama silences Trump. Late-night shows hammered the story with jokes. Newspapers published editorials praising Obama's poise. Talk radio callers debated whether Trump had embarrassed himself. The sheer saturation of coverage meant there was no escape. Whether you liked Obama or loathed him, his calm words were everywhere. And here's the cruel truth: the more Trump tried to fight back, the more coverage he created. Every rant, every angry tweet, every attempt to bury the story only refreshed the news cycle. The media didn't have to work hard. Trump was feeding the material on a silver platter. In politics, repetition decides winners. And thanks to the media frenzy, Obama's one quiet sentence became the loudest sound in America. Politics is often about numbers, policies, and strategies. But every once in a while, a message cuts deeper, beyond party lines. Obama's words in Phoenix did exactly that. Marriage is built on respect, trust, and honesty. At first, it seemed like a simple jab, a clever way to corner Trump. But the more people heard it, the more it took on a life of its own. Teachers quoted it to students. Coaches used it to rally their teams. Parents repeated it at dinner tables as lessons for their kids. It wasn't just a political line anymore. It was a principle. What made it powerful wasn't that it came from Obama. It was that it spoke to something universal. Every marriage, every friendship, every workplace relies on the same three pillars: respect, trust, honesty. Strip them away, and everything collapses. People recognized that truth instantly because it wasn't new, it was ancient. Obama had just reminded them of it. For Trump, this was the cruel twist. The line wasn't really about him anymore. It had escaped the debate stage and belonged to the people. The more he raged against it, the more it looked like he was raging against values everyone agreed with. And that's why the moral undercurrent was so devastating. Obama hadn't just out-debated Trump. He had tapped into a cultural vein, leaving America to wrestle with a question far bigger than politics. Do our leaders reflect the values we claim to live by? Most political gaffes vanish within days, replaced by new scandals, new headlines, new noise. But the Phoenix moment wasn't a bruise that healed. It was one that kept aching. Weeks later, reporters were still asking Trump about it. At rallies, hecklers shouted the line back at him: respect, trust, honesty. Crowds laughed, and cameras caught his scowl every time. Even months later, late-night comedians brought it up as shorthand for his thin skin. Inside the White House, staffers admitted the wound never fully closed. Every time Obama's name came up, Trump circled back to Phoenix. That line, he'd mutter. It was cheap. Everyone acts like it was genius. Pathetic. His inability to let it go kept the bruise fresh. But outside politics, the story gained a strange immortality. It was retold in classrooms, in sermons, in casual conversations. People repeated it not because they cared about the feud, but because the message stuck. Like a quote from a movie or a lyric from a song, it lodged itself in memory. And for Trump, that was the most painful part. He wasn't just embarrassed in the moment, he was branded by it. Obama's calm words outlived the event, turning into something close to folklore, while Trump's reaction became a cautionary tale. The bruise never faded. It became part of his public image, a man undone not by a rival's roar, but by a whisper. When the laughter faded and the headlines moved on, one question lingered. Why did a single quiet sentence shake a president so deeply? The answer lies in what the Phoenix moment revealed, not about policy, but about character. Obama didn't win with statistics or fiery attacks. He won with restraint. He showed that true leadership isn't about dominating the room, but about grounding it. Power isn't always in the volume of your voice, it's in the weight of your words. For Trump, the moment became a mirror he couldn't look away from. A man who thrived on spectacle was undone by simplicity. A politician who demanded loyalty struggled against values no one could dispute: respect, trust, honesty. The fact that those words came in the context of marriage made it even sharper, exposing vulnerabilities he didn't want the world to see. But beyond the clash of two men, the lesson was bigger. It reminded people of what they expect in leaders, and in themselves. Respect that doesn't waver. Trust that can be counted on. Honesty that doesn't bend when it's inconvenient. That's why the Phoenix moment endures. It wasn't really about Trump or Obama. It was about us, about the kind of values we believe should guide not just politics, but marriages, families, and communities. In the end, history won't remember Phoenix as just another town hall. It will remember it as the night a whisper outweighed a shout, and taught America that sometimes the simplest truths cut the deepest.